No, we know.
We know. We definitely lost.
Like the whole stream's offline. Okay, let me check on that. Y'all can just keep going.
Okay. Let me see.
Well,
Just reconnecting.
Okay, so what do we see? We see a new
Title. Okay, so I just give a little recap because I think we lost a little image for a second. We completed that level. I call it a story level. We're moving along a path very quickly, and at the end we unlocked the story, so to speak. It was scrambled. It was out of order. That's on purpose, and like the mechanics of the game are to put it in order. And we're back to a trial, and the trial is more difficult now.
Yeah, you have to.
Because we have these black pillars that are dangerous, and she's balancing a couple different things, which is that you have to extend the road, and you have to make sure the receding road behind is not going to catch him, and you did it well, which everyone under the age of 30 seems to blast. So Theo sent a letter back when he was 308 years old.
So this is his reply after 200 years?
Yeah.
That's...
So one thing that's not very clear that I can make very clear when I keep working on this is that Theo is essentially is 8 years old when you're playing in the trials.
Okay.
Or something like that. So I'm glad we're back on a level like this because we missed the end of it. When it cut out, it kind of we missed the end of the previous level that looked just like this. But it's okay. Once you unlock it, just don't move for a second, and we'll get this experience.
So there's a transition that we missed. Okay.
Yeah.
The guide in me, expression. We struck up a conversation. She was neither old nor immortal, which was obvious by the fearful nature. The woman whose name sounded like Pillow. But that can't be it. Or maybe it was. But our conversation took off with sight when I spied a woman sitting on a tree stump. It was pretty quick. At such speed that I didn't bother to ask her to clarify. Pillow told me about her life. Terrifying woman who just run away from her farm. And the way she explained it, during the first years after her trial, and even got to take a bite, and the memory of that orange, its glorious sweet taste, its joyful fragrance, exploded in her mind. And right then, she unplugged and made us when she was 8. And she didn't say what adults were or weren't there to guide her, but I said, mortal, I'd be a mess. But Pillow, on the other hand, did affect me. She was kind, desperate when I spied a woman sitting on a tree stump. Plugged and ran. A freezing wind picked her up and threw her down beside the stream. Dimensions are...
Oop. Alright. Oh. Alright, we're back here in this vein of some sort.
The darkness lifted when I spied a woman sitting on a tree stump. It was a pretty woman, long black hair, most serious expression. We struck up a conversation.
Give it a second. Let's just hold
She was
for a second.
neither old
I think
nor
this is
immortal,
where
which was
this
obvious
game
by
is
the
very hard to
fearful,
play test
uncertain tone of her
because
voice.
in these settings it's
The bird-like
reasonable to want to like
warble
move on,
brought out
and
the guide,
I have it set up so
teacher.
that people who want to move on aren't that
The
interested
woman
in the
whose
story.
name sounded like
Will,
Pillow.
that's cool. Just like skipping a
But
cutscene.
that can't be it. Or maybe it was. But our conversation took off with such speed that I didn't bother to ask her to
Because when you're being
clarify.
watched,
Pillow told me
there's
about
a
her life.
it's just
which
different
was
when you're being watched.
different.
This context is different than when I played
Pillow had
this.
failed
Otherwise,
those
it's different.
trials when
It's
she
like
was 8.
the idea of like kind
She
of
didn't
like,
say what
essentially
adults
feels a
were
little
or
bit like
weren't
being
there
watched
to
while
guide
you're
her, but I
reading.
suspect
Yeah.
there
So
wasn't
it's
any.
odd.
I mean, you don't have to also just give. I mean, you know, in a normal, I guess, in the wild context, people might play for 2 minutes and then decide to do something else, right? Which is a case that you can't really explore
She was
in a
kind.
real test.
Desperate. Terrifying
But
woman
yeah,
who just
now
ran away
yeah,
from
you
her
can move
farm.
on when you're ready.
Interesting. Alright. Friend. Alright, so we're with the friend again. Can we do oh, we can do both. And I can oh God. Never mind. I should just here, I'll speed both of them up and just step back. Oh wait.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so you
Yeah.
can use that to sort of manipulate where they might be when that black bar of death comes around.
Yeah. One regret I have is I introduced the slow power early, but it doesn't become warranted until now. I've got to work on that, but yeah, early the speed up power is useful, but not until now is it really the slow down power useful when you're trying to really time.
Oh, wait. Oh my gosh, that was really close. What?
So those dragons are going a little faster, so that's
Oh,
also
are
an
they?
issue.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, relatively, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, let's see how far we can do this. Alright. And. Oh, nice.
Yeah, but you did it.
Yay. And there's the orb. Oh. Okay.
308 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Reached into the clouds, spun around. I head back, leaving the sky. It's gonna go to shit eventually anyway.
What is. What happens if I go into one of the doors? Oh. Never mind. Oh, okay, so that.
For some reason, when he noticed me, he screamed. And I felt like Frankenstein's monster.
I feel like
I climbed wooden stairs.
quite interesting. Oh, he dodged the doors.
Ring around the rosies, pocket full of posies.
Wow.
It's gonna go to shit eventually, right away.
Oh, no. Okay, so I
Difficulties. Did I remember the original?
It's gonna go to shit eventually either way.
Events of that period appear confused.
You think you can prepare him for what?
Oh, and there's other people flying.
Well, at least he's not dead.
sideways.
Blah, blah,
I
blah.
thought they were planes at first.
Blah, 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 blah.
Skyscrapers reached in
Oh, blah, 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 blah.
my head back, leaving the sky.
Blah, 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 blah.
Because this is the roughest
Ring
scene.
around the rosies,
Because what I
pocket
want you to
full
do
of
is what
posies.
people think is the mistake that they're making. When they think they're making a mistake is actually playing it correctly.
Ah, okay.
So that means I'm not done designing this at all.
Think you can prepare him for
So
what?
walking into the doors is not.
Well, at least he's not dead.
Or,
Correct.
Blah, blah, blah.
let me see.
Blah, 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 blah.
I watched
Because
my
I feel like I
infant
keep
self fall again
respawning.
on a blanket.
I mean, I guess I
Still
am, but
very much
not
alive,
sure.
though I couldn't be sure as the glass undulated like a funhouse mirror of me as a baby.
Okay, that was not.
Circling my tiny body were strange symbols, perhaps an alphabet from the distant future.
Am I right that that sort of droning guitar tone, like, that's never
watched my
stopped
infant
for
self
the
fall
entirety of the
trapped
game,
in a
right?
bubble of wind.
Yes.
Flesh is red.
No,
Blah, 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 It's blah, gonna blah. go to shit
and I hope
eventually
to do
either
something
way.
much more advanced eventually.
Oh no, I fell
Oh,
off the
oh,
map.
look, a bug!
Oh.
You found a bug.
Oh,
Oh, time travel! But we actually are gonna. This is clearly an oversight on my part. But you can. This is gonna work out. This is a short scene, and you'll just now you know the routine. It's to fly, catch old men, and then run into a door.
Oh, okay.
Just like everything else in life.
Metropolis. Destination. I found the abandoned section of the city where trees grew through the buildings and vines.
Oh, Dyerly. Oh, Gabe. Yeah.
So Peter,
Yay,
do you
thanks,
know Gabe?
Gabe works. Yeah, he. I think he graduated something like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember. I know he wishes I could probably remember exactly, but he's been working at Microsoft since. And if I'm not mistaken, he worked on Halo 5. Maybe he can chime in and tell me if I'm wrong about any of those
Yeah,
details.
Gabe, tell us in the chat, but thanks so much, man. That's such
Yeah, that's
a
awesome.
sweet thing to do, and it's going to go to a really good cause.
Ring around the rosies, pockets full of
oh no.
That I remember the original era.
So I was sent back here from where that explosion.
Yeah, so I gotta tutorialize this better. I gotta teach better. So, you hit a door, you will be teleported.
Vines slithered over my feet.
And if you get the green pads, you will fly like the previous levels.
Yeah.
Saw a hazy
And if you fly, you can catch one of those old men flying ahead
circling
above
my
you.
tiny body were strange symbols.
And if you have one of them on you while you hit a door, then it'll explode. So it's it's a mess. But
Oh, there he is.
I made it a couple weeks ago, and I'm seeing how people
Ring
play.
around the rosies,
And I'm learning a
pocket
lot
full of
about,
posies.
I caught
It's gonna go to shit eventually either way.
Yes, you did.
If you feel comfortable, Peter, I mean, I think this might be sort of interesting to the streamers. So you're saying that you're sort of having this issue where players,
Well, at least he's not.
they'll be doing the right thing, and then they'll be experiencing it as a mistake, right? They'll interpret it as a
Yeah.
mistake. What are some of your
Yeah.
inclinations for how you might address that in the future, if you feel
Yeah,
comfortable?
My tiny body
exactly. Well, there's some obvious things like explosions are usually bad,
yeah.
Whoa, really?
right? And
dizzy.
there's this other issue of
Blah, blah, blah,
Well,
blah, blah.
it's so much is thrown at you in the scene at once.
Blah, 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 blah.
That's a problem. Another problem is the reward is very, very, very subtle. It's way too subtle, which is that
gonna
at
go
least
to
the
shit
progression,
eventually either
which is
way.
that doors are disappearing when there's an explosion. And that's not.
Prepare him for
You have to
what?
really be looking for that. Again, this is.
Well, at least he's not dead.
No, of
You know,
course, yeah.
I gotta work on that. So you hit a door, and then you guys try to look for the doors after she creates an explosion. Look at him.
Watch my
Oh, yeah, and then.
Couple went away. And so what you can imagine I'm trying to do here, well, I bet you can't imagine, it's too opaque, but when you hit a door, the audio skips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, differently than the other levels, and so the fewer doors there are, the less the audio is going
found
to
the abandoned
skip.
section of the city. where
That's
trees
interesting.
grew through.
Oh,
And so, this is my logic, but not what's coming through. So you're gonna continue trying to grab men, make it blow up, and make doors blow up, and then they'll eventually all be gone, and then the audio will not skip.
Oh,
okay.
Which was your goal in the prior levels, is ones that were sort of spiraling
Prepare him
around.
for what?
Yeah, I mean, so much of these sort of
Well, at
like,
least he's not dead.
it's funny because people always talk about audio logs as like being interesting, but also maybe one of the flaws of audio log systems, and they don't really enmesh with the systems of the game. I think it's interesting how in this game, I mean, the audio logs are very directly connected to what actions you take because you do things like skip through them, speed up, slow down, depending on gameplay actions.
Yeah, that's right. I want comprehension to be a
Blah, blah,
mechanic.
blah, blah, blah.
And
Blah, 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 blah.
we have this obvious
Ring around the
binary in
roses,
games where there's
pocket full
story
of hoes, you
and
think
there's
you can
play.
prepare
Right, yeah.
It's gonna go
And
to
you
shit
can, one
eventually
solution
either
is
way.
to be incredibly
You think you can
good
prepare him for
at
what?
both, like Richard's games.
Right, I mean,
Well, at least
That's
he's
one
not dead.
solution is like they're both really good, right? That's one idea. So now you made all the doors go away.
sure, but like when I'm playing Richard's game, Uncharted,
The average
I don't
adult
mind
walks
if,
the
you know,
speed of
oh,
3
I'm watching a movie now, this movie's great, I'm playing a game now, this game's great. But so you're sort of taking a different path then?
Yeah. So okay. So this is in the context of quietly listen to it, but you unlocked it. And we're done. The game. This is all I have.
Oh, okay.
So
I was
you can imagine
contemplating a
this
line
is
from
gonna.
Frankenstein.
This is
It
now
is with
some,
considerable
trying to be.
difficulty
I
that I
hope this
remember
is
the
similar to
original
the
era
previous
of my
levels where you
being.
unlocked it. You're going through the
All
portal.
the events of
and you
that
listen to
period
it,
appear
read
confused
the
and indistinct.
and move on to another trial with
Perfect
the
description.
present. Anyway, yeah, I want to make. I'll say it again. I'm trying to get. Like, what is a
On
solution
all
to
sides
telling a
of the
story
mirror-glass skyscrapers
and
reached into the clouds
play?
and spun around
And I want the
until
trials
back
to
to the
provide this tension.
Dizzy, I glanced at the mirrored
tension.
building
Yeah,
and saw
sure.
a
And
hazy
allow
image
you
of
to
me as a
build
baby.
some sort of emotional relationship
Circling
with
my
Theo
tiny
in a
body
straightforward
with
way, just like
strange
I don't
symbols.
want him to die,
An alphabet of
right?
the distant future.
And actually, I want his personality to
watched my
come through a
infant
little
self
more. That
frolicking on
he's
a
a
blanket
kid and
full of
he's gonna
snakes that were
fight
very much
dragons
alive,
and he's not
but I
gonna
couldn't
slow
be
down
sure as the glass
and he's
undulated
gonna
like a
get hurt
funhouse mirror.
if you don't
Sweet
intervene.
newborn, blank slate.
Okay, but then we have these
Experiment.
stories he's telling, and they're going to
That was me.
increasingly every 50 years in his
Spooked,
future, he's going to
I
send
ran towards my
a letter
destination.
back to you, a message.
I
So
found
time
the
travel
abandoned
then, yeah?
section of the city. where
Yeah,
the
his
trees
letters are time travel. And that's one thing that's vague. Another thing I got to work on. It's not overt time travel. It's just the letters are being sent back in time. Yeah, it's over, so you can close it.
Oh.
He's sending letters back in time, but he's not traveling back in time.
Sure.
You're not traveling forward.
So there's it's not necessarily like time travel to sort of change the plot, but it's just sort of a way of having this character sort of show you the results of your actions, right?
Yes. Yeah. I've been an aside. My research has been. I've been reading. You can cut it off, Stephen, if you want. You can turn it off. Oh, so it's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
So
cover this.
a lot of my research. So what am I up to? I said that concretely. I want to make. I'm interested in this idea that 21st century kids are going to live a long time.
Yeah, sure.
They're going to outlive their parents tremendously. At least the ones who are lucky enough to have health care and get prescriptions.
Right, so
I'm
some
serious.
of them, yeah.
And the politics of who's going to get that medicine and not is the one question. And on the other hand, the story of getting more life is the oldest story in history. The fountain of youth, the idea of living forever, the stories of gods living and dying, has been something that's
Yeah.
been in human, has been interest in human culture. And simple. At some point, it's immortality is the opposite of death, and so there's been questions about that. One book that's been I've been reading. Well, I'll put it this way: usually, the tale of immortality is that the main character wants to seek it, and then they get it, and it's a curse.
That's interesting.
That tends to be the narrative of. There's an old Doctor Who episode about these Gallifreyans who. Well, there's one guy who gets it, and it turns out he just turns into a statue. This is like a 1980s Doctor Who.
Sure.
There's a couple Greek myths that are about that, basically, I looking in, and that seems to be the first reaction we all have to questions like, what if you could live a very, very long time?
Right.
So just to parse out a little, the medicines that are coming out are not about immortality, because you can still get in a car accident.
Yeah.
Immortality means you get in a car accident and you're fine, right? It means you cannot die, and that supposedly would be a curse. That would actually be a. Most authors think that is a curse. So, but we're talking about just not looking 70 or feeling 70 for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. So just sort of like the extension, perhaps indefinite, of your life.
And I'm interested in the first generation to wrestle with it, which is that the first generation to watch their parents grow old and die,
Yeah.
or their friends, or their sisters and brothers, and keep going, like barely even be halfway done with their life when that happens. And so as I call this a science fiction fairy tale, I'm not answering questions. I'm just trying to draw out these feelings and
Sure.
possibilities, and that's what a lot of art does, is just draw out these possibilities before, in this case, it's actually a topical issue. I think in 15 years it'll be like the news when we first start seeing like the first dogs that live to be 50 because they like the clinical trials, literally.
Right, on animals first and stuff. But so you said just now that you're sort of, I guess, less interested in maybe like exploring like or creating some beat by beat, like, oh, this is what's going to happen, and then this, and more sort of exploring, I guess, the maybe weird and funny emotions associated with this idea.
The emotions. So one thing that's so tricky about deciding on this dynamic I described, which is that comprehension is the mechanic. Usually comprehension is in your head and play is on your hands and screen, and there's the relationship there. I'm trying to mix them together. But one thing that's hard about that is I also have another endeavor, which is that this game, like I said, because so many pages are missing, so to speak,
Right.
it is also incomprehensible, just in a normal way. And one thing I have an arc planned, and I'm working with a writer, by the way, Greg
Oh,
Chandler,
really?
has written these passages, and we've really just done 3 chapters. And the arc is this, that early on when Theo's only 58, he sends you a message back, and then 180 sends you another message, and those are generally like, hey, it worked out.
Sure, like,
You're dead,
doing great,
but
yeah.
You grow old and dead, but I'm still here, and I'm having fun. It's super fun. I'm learning new languages, and I'm doing unnecessary things, because why not, right? And but then and another thing that's not explicit is that's the reward for these trials. Did you guys get that at all? Like, was that even? That's vague. It needs to come through more. That's a big goal for me to get that in there. Anyway, Theo's kids live long. When they're trials, they live longer. But one of his grandkids fails.
So, real quick, like, elaborate on this idea of a trial, right? Because you were just speaking sort of earlier about, like, these pills, like, it might be a pill. But so in this universe you're constructing, what are these trials? Like, how do they behave?
They're just, if it works, if I get this work, it's just supposed to be something like a fantasy, like a classic video game fantasy magic land of there are trials. If you pass them, you get a reward. You beat the dragon, you win. If I get the tone of this game right, then there's going to be a certain levity. That is, we're going to pass off certain magic as being magic, and we're going to pass off certain character development as character development. And that's a hard balance. I haven't found it yet, but I'd like to. The trials are just, so, I'm not ready to flesh out this entire world.
Of course,
and, like, detail it.
yeah.
But the idea is that we have these trials that kids take, and if they are good, are they good at video games, or are they good at fighting dragons? I don't know. If they're like skilled kids with attentive parents, they're going to get rewards.
So you do see a little bit as sort of a judgment then, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
it's definitely set up as a reward. And the question, and so the arc is going to be again. So Theo eventually, his grandkid doesn't win him. She grows old. He watches that. She leaves the family, and then we go into sections where Theo kind of becomes more. As he becomes like 300, 400 years old, he becomes quite confused and disillusioned with life, and is, as we heard some of the passages a little, is poetically lost.
Right, a little bit melancholy. Yeah.
Yes. So, we haven't decided to what extent we're gonna say like living forever is a curse or living a long time is a curse, because that seems to be what everyone else has already done, and so we definitely are interested in. Well, we don't want to do the same old and just say it's a bad thing, but we want to play on the idea somewhat.
But so you'd say, I mean, you're writing the story, but maybe you don't necessarily know how it ends yet?
Oh yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Very
It's such a mess making for me. Maybe this could be done much more smartly, but I have to know some basic things like, do people want to do this mechanic?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so do they understand it? And there's so much work has gone into just basic comprehension. Like collecting a thing is good versus bad. And you can see how this last level is my newest, and it's problematic comparatively. They all have issues, but the earlier ones, I think you learned like, oh, green. Oh, I see, green does something, and so that actually took a lot. There were a lot of versions that led up to that when people were like completely lost. So there's the gameplay comprehension, and then little by little we want to chip away at the story comprehension, and we're ready to do so now because to take that on that endeavor, because our first goal before story comprehension was just seeing if people wanted to listen or even hear or even want to play, like if they just want to throw the controller down or not. And it took some work just to get a little bit of the poetic flavor where a certain audience would say, yeah, I might like this game.
Yeah.
Just
That's
basic.
And that's difficult, right? Because like, I guess when you know that your game is maybe, appeals to like a subset of people. I mean, I guess how do you know with a given test where to draw the line of like, oh, like this, like in this case the game was problematic, or oh, in this case it seemed like this person just really isn't sort of the type who would enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm never gonna know. I mean, I'm gonna try to know, and I'm gonna have little hints, but I'm never gonna know. And this is the thing about making any so-called experimental work. Your audience are people who have dove so deep into the genre, they've dived so deep into video games for so long, they're actually ready to move on. Like they're ready to move on to something else. The experimental work is not for kids.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So my kid actually, imagine this. I have a 7-year-old, and she thinks it's a horrible game. She just like, I'm gonna grow up and make Star Wars. That's the end of it, right? And so that makes sense. And similarly, if I showed my mom this, which I haven't, my mom would think this is horrible too. So there's kind of two ends of the spectrum where they would say it's skipping. I don't know what he said. These are problems, right?
Yeah, no, sure.
Like
That's tough though, right?
This is weird. I don't like weird. And so who is my audience? Well, all experimental work. From paintings, when the modernists 100 years ago started making we started having unrealistic paintings,
Right.
cubism and the like, to music that is discordant, to film in the 60s in particular, when people started making films that were on purpose, like screwed up and scratched up.
Yeah.
It was for their audience, for people who had seen all the Hitchcock movies, or heard all the Beethoven, or played all the amazing, well-made, like good video games, and are like, okay, I'm ready to move on to something else.
Yeah.
And this audience hasn't lived for very long. It hasn't been around for very long because video games aren't very old.
Right.
And they needed to be good and interesting for a few decades, I think, before there's actually an audience of any size that said, okay, I've kind of been there, done that.
Ready for something that's not just maybe like overtly fun or just really in that very traditional based way.
And that's a certain mindset. I actually, and I'm not, obviously, I mean, you guys have made all kinds of students make experimental games. I'm hardly any pioneer. I'm just part of the club that's interested in experimental games.
Right.
But back to your beginning question, I don't know. I mean, I even find that I don't like to play weird games at night.
Really?
I just am at night I want to watch Hollywood movies or read. I can actually read pretty advanced books, but in the day I have trouble reading, but I can play difficult games in various ways. It's just this is maybe an
Yeah.
esoteric point, but even me as an audience changes during the day.
Right. Okay. No, I mean, that's really interesting, and it is sort of a very specific appetite you have to have, right? Man,
Right.
that's really. Do you ever? I don't know. Think to yourself like, man, what if I was just making a pinball game or something? Like, do you have sort of side projects going, or
Yeah, no, because games are so damn hard to
Yeah,
make.
sure.
That it takes me years to make anything, and it's frustrating. I envy this theoretical person, the following theoretical, the musician who, in theory, can sit down and write a song in a day. I know it never happens. I know
Yeah.
music takes forever, but come on, you know some good bands that like write a whole album in a year, right? And you're like, wow, they did it. You know, I mean, it's hard to make a video game, a good one that's like the length of an album, in a year.
Yeah, and there's sort of I guess a less direct process for it, right? Because I think Anna Anthropy in her book like Rise of the Video Game Dinosaurs makes this really
Yeah.
good point of like, like with art or something, you can kind of sketch, you can kind of just free form create something with
Yeah.
zero difficulty. I mean, maybe it's not good, right? But the actual like having an idea and putting it on paper. The execution might be sloppy, but it's there, right? So, whereas with games, there's sort of no analog at all. You can't really sketch a game in the same way.
Yeah.
It has to be sort of deliberate, right?
Yeah, and so it's a mess, and so I have like 12 different things I need to work on. Some different levels of game design, audio, visuals, story comprehension, fun, and so on. And so what I try to do is, every day I'm working, I try to make one of them inch up a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
And so they're kind of, no one's ahead in the race. Like, okay, one day I'll make, oh, now the art's looking a little better than it did, and then I work on the audio for a while, and then it's like, oh, crap, this game doesn't make any sense. I need to work on that. That's
Comprehension,
actually what I'm
sure.
endeavoring the next couple of months, is like making it a little more comprehensive, and they kind of all catch up with each other.
Yeah.
It takes years.
Wow,
It takes
that's
me
really.
years, at
I
least.
mean, because also, I mean, this is this is not something something that you're doing full time, right?
Yeah,
I guess
sure,
like how long would you say? What's it like, sort of like being a teacher and also having this very elaborate side project to work on?
Yeah, so I probably average 10 to 20 hours a week on it,
Okay,
on my
yeah.
games. And in the summer, I get bigger chunks of time if I feel like I know what I'm doing and I just need to get work done. And so it's great. Actually, it's amazing to be able to teach and then go to some extent not be into myself and then be into myself. Because really working on a game like this is rather self-centered. It's like I'm working on my thing and working with a couple people, but I don't mean it's not in a bad way. It's just like I'm working on my thing.
Yeah, but
And then I get to shift my brain to a really different mindset and be interested in other people for a handful of hours a week.
yeah, I mean that's
It's not overwhelming, and it's not a whole lot. And there's cycles to the semester that are really structured and nice for me. And I guess what I'm saying is I need to kind of have a forced situation where I switch between different mindsets. I get bored. It'd be really hard to work on this 50 hours a week
Right.
constantly. And it would also be hard to teach literally like 40 hours a week, like lecture or anything like you can imagine. It's really fun to go back and forth. I find that very balancing.
I guess every time you go back to it, it's something that you haven't done for a little while, and it kind of like, oh, like I can look forward to this, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it's-
definitely. And I'm really lucky to do so. You know, it's what I always wanted, is to have just enough time to work on my own stuff, and then also have some sort of community and job and structure, and so it's been good
Wow,
times.
that's great. That's really, and that some people do like, they are tormented by the side projects that like is sort of just out of reach, and they can put in, less time than they'd like. But I mean, it's fantastic that you sort of found that balance.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's a lot of things I'm bad at. Like I learned when I first finished school, this is a long time ago, but the .com thing was new and big, and I learned I wasn't very good at working at companies. I didn't like to be told when to be someplace. I wasn't very communicative with my other friends, peers sometimes. I was like, oh my god, I'm not actually very good at this. I'm really great at waking up on a Saturday and going, I'm gonna work. I'm not gonna procrastinate.
Good.
That's my superpower. Consistently and not overdo it, but just in a medium amount work, medium amount every week, and not
Sure.
yeah, just work a
Sustainable
medium amount every
working
week.
and like not.
Yes,
That's good.
that's basically all I know how to do. And the rest is just making things good. Just takes work. In other words, it doesn't come natural to me to make things smarter good. I just have to work on it until I think it's.
I mean, that's sort of true of games as a whole, right? It's not really something that's ever like intuitive, or you sort of know when you're like where you're starting and where you're ending. I mean, I think it's interesting that you're making this game and like you don't know how it ends yet, right? Because I guess maybe in a film, right, that would be like a problem. It's like this
Yeah.
director doesn't even know like what's going to happen at the end. I guess a game is more iterative, right?
Yeah, it is, and Richard talks about this. Like, I mean, the guys at Pixar, he talks about the book he read recently. I think it's called something Inc.
Oh, Creativity Inc.
Creativity Inc. Yeah, and it opens up just digital media, whether that's a Pixar film or a video game. You always have the ability to go back and change things, and the prior methods, like say old forms of cinema, or even still live action cinema, there's a real pressure to like be ready for the film shoot,
Yeah.
and not have to go back to that.
Because that
at
set
all.
doesn't exist anymore, right?
Yeah, but there's problems. There's good and bad to us having such freedom, which is the project can go on forever,
Mm-hmm.
or it can. Oh, we can't. We need to create our own structures. But yeah, in theory, I can design this thing until it's good, or until the. I have an idea of the arc, like I said, but I don't have a literal ending to. The event.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's something you're still figuring it out, right?
Yeah, or a middle, as you can tell from this game. I don't really have a middle. I've kind of so.
Good stuff. I'm sorry. Could you tell me the time over there?
Yeah, it's almost 8. It's 7:50.
Okay, cool. Well, like, let's sort of wrap up with any like closing thoughts. Does anyone have any questions for Peter back here? It's a pretty thick conversation. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to wrap up, I mean,
Yeah.
like, just to give a little context, like if someone's watching, just a handful of people watching, a game I made years ago, handful of years ago with Krush Valinajad is called The Cat and the Coop.
Yeah.
And so
Played that one.
that might put a little bit of context on this, which is that took us a few years to make. It's a very short game, and it seems it feels incredibly inefficient to make like a 20-minute game take 3 years, but that's what we did.
That's how it works.
And
yeah.
just to give people it's free, it's on Steam, and give people a context of like sort of an endpoint. Although I think that game is very different than the one we're talking about today. Sort of my sensibilities of being really into the enigmatic, and to the point where maybe it never really was perfectly clear what it's all about and what it's doing. I lean a little on the enigmatic, I suppose, even when I try to be coherent.
It's a good place to be.
That might be a nice reference as a free download for people.
Okay, cool, great. Yeah, go ahead and check it out. Oh, check it out.
Yeah, I know I've got some issues with spawning on the edge.
Okay, well,
It just takes work. I just gotta fix it. It's just a bug.
sure.
I just gotta work on
you
it.
you got the time. You just gotta
Yeah.
put it in. Well, great. All right. Let's go ahead and. So, I think we're gonna transition now. And so at 8:00 p.m. I'm going to be interviewing the fabulous and distinguished team of Mild Beast Games. Half of which is Stephen Lee, who you saw earlier, who's coming back, but also his buddy Aaron. And they're going to talk about this really cool game, Sundown, which is local multiplayer, very violent, very, like, action in your pace. So it's going to be a good sort of tonal shift. We like to have that.
So far, that's been the theme, is the tonal shift from Uncharted.
Yeah, like, starting at Uncharted. I mean, well, first, actually, starting at crappy student games, right? And then moving to Uncharted, which is beautiful. And then moving to this, which is, like, a sort of tonal shift in that Uncharted's very sort of brazen interface, beautiful. This is sort of thoughtful, pensive, metaphoric, and messy. And now we're going to the just violent and wonderful. So I think we're gonna have like maybe 2 minutes of downtime. Okay, cool. So we're gonna go ahead and just y'all might experience a little bit of issues for the next 2 minutes, but at 8:00 PST, we are going to go on with Sundown, which is a 4-player game. Maybe some of the live studio audience would like to engage with us in this 4-player game.